to the sea, Palestine, from the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. It is phenomenal. We've got a great lineup of speakers, but this next person, I am so honored to be able to introduce you to her today. Some of the most unsung heroes are the medics in Gaza and the volunteer medics that go out to Gaza. As you are aware, the medical situation and the medical infrastructure in Gaza is almost completely and entirely destroyed. Multiple hospitals have been destroyed, shells left of buildings, Al-Shifa, Al-Quds, Al-Aqsa Mati's hospital, but just dozens of them. There's probably now about 2 hospitals out of 36 in Gaza that maintain some form of functionality, and not even that. Why? Because Israel is a genocidal entity. It is a Zionist entity based on a nationalist, fascist regime that only seeks to destroy everything in its path. The next speaker is phenomenal, and I'm so honored. Dr. Bushra Uthman is a Palestinian Australian who migrated to Melbourne from Kuwait in 1992 after the Gulf War. She was trained in Victoria as a general surgeon and has just spent 3 weeks on a medical mission to Gaza organized by the Palestinian Australian New Zealand Medical Association, otherwise known as PANSMA. Please put your hands together for Dr. Bushra Uthman.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Peace and blessings to you all. First and foremost, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I'd also like to pay my respects to elders past and present. Gaza. It has been on our minds constantly for the last 287 days and counting. I was fortunate and exceptionally honoured to have spent 3 weeks in Gaza at the Shuhada Al-Aqsa Hospital in Deir al-Balah as a general surgeon. I entered on a medical mission organised by PANSMA, and overall we were 3 Australians, a Sydney-based surgeon, Dr. Jamal, an engineer, Khalid Shakhshir, and a Jordanian-based surgeon, Dr. Abdullah, who were able to enter. The latter 2 were additions, as only a few days before we were meant to enter, 2 other members who have Palestinian ID, Dr. Lama and Nurse Malak, were not cleared by Israel to be able to enter Gaza on a medical mission. I want you to think of shame. This is just one of the many ways in which Israel has prevented international help from reaching those who need it most. I would encourage anyone within the healthcare system to consider contacting PANSMA about our upcoming volunteer medical missions. Although I could spend all day talking to you about a place and a people that have captured my heart, I will instead try and honour them by sharing with you their thoughts, their stories, their everyday struggles. I will do my best to give them a voice and to encourage others to advocate for their safety and liberation. I cannot name them all, but I want to assure them that the world has not forgotten about them, that even a Palestinian surgeon all the way in a faraway land called Australia would travel to Gaza to stand with them and would do it all over again tomorrow if I had the chance. This dedication is for the many Muhammads and Ahmads, Tariq, Haytham, Iyad, Mustafa, Asma, Maysa, Yusuf, Nazar, Hisham, Mahmoud, Hussam, Mushir, Ahlam, Rawan, Nabila, Naeem, Abid, Hani, Aziz, Ali, Manar, Dima, Hiba, Aisha, Iman, Amani, Ra'ed, Nahid, Ihsan, Ayman, Sami, Firas, Rajab, Amir, Rubar, Izzat, Mu'tasim, Abdul Majid, Abu Musa, Ayman, and Taha, and many more who I wish I could name. People often ask me why I chose to pursue surgery, and one of the main reasons is because I love working with teams. I spent long hours with the Al-Aqsa theatre staff, and not just when we were operating into the late hours of the night, and I could not help but fall in love with their ferociously warm spirits. We would sit in the cramped surgical office in the afternoon, drinking Turkish coffee, discussing the harrowing experiences they have faced. Many of them used to work at Al-Shifa Hospital, the crowning glory of Gaza, and relayed to me the stories of how they were trapped there for almost 40 days. They could not leave the hospital, they weren't able to have contact with their families due to power and communication blackouts. They would hear bombs and explosions all around them. The walls of the hospital would shake and they would not know if their families were alive or dead. Some of them would suddenly find their sister or uncle in the emergency department with life-threatening injuries, and sometimes they would receive the bodies of their family members who had been killed. Can you imagine what kind of emotional trauma that can cause? In the last few days of the siege of Al-Shifa, they had run out of water in the hospital and were drinking dextrose and saline from fluid bottles to survive. They were operating on patients on the floor, amputating limbs without anaesthetic. When the last doctors were asked to leave, they were told to walk on a road with their hands raised and guns pointed at them. They were given advice by their colleagues to change out of their scrubs into normal clothes because the Israeli army was capturing doctors and nurses in scrubs and taking them for questioning. Some of them didn't have normal clothes to change into, having not been home for 40 days, and had to take the risk of walking out in their scrubs. Some of their colleagues have been captured and even killed. The ones that are captured have been missing for months and their whereabouts are unknown till this day. I want you to seriously ponder on that for a moment and think about the lack of outrage throughout the world at such heinous crimes. In the evenings, I would hang out in the nurses' quarter drinking tea, which they can only drink with unbelievably high amounts of sugar, and they would reminisce about the life they had before this war. They would show me pictures of their beautiful houses and the evenings that they would spend watching sunsets at the beach. They would often say to me, "Oh, how I wish you could have seen Gaza before, how beautiful it was. It was Jannah," the Arabic word for paradise. Now, every part of this beautiful and rich and prosperous land has been decimated, desecrated, destroyed, and demolished. For too long, Palestinians have been dehumanized in the media, and this divide forges a chasm. It allows them to be thought of as just numbers. It didn't take long for me to realize at a truly guttural level that the whole world has failed the people of Gaza. On my second day in the hospital, some little kids came up to me and wanted to play and chat. I thought I was asking innocent questions about their age and their families, and proceeded to be mortified when each child recounted how they were expelled and forced to flee from their homes, how they survived explosions and the injuries that they had suffered, how many family members had been killed, and how they were all living as displaced people within the hospital. Shame. Every child in Gaza can tell you the difference in sounds between a drone, a quadcopter, and an F-16. Wissam, 6 years old, had lost both grandpas and a grandmother, was previously displaced and living in Nasser Hospital, and is now in Al-Aqsa. Dima, who is 12 years old, has lost her 4 sisters and her nieces when they bombed her sister's house in which she was taking refuge. Ruta, 9 years old, has lost her grandparents, her father, and 2 of her brothers. She and her 10-year-old sister Renin and their family are sleeping on mattresses on the ground floor of the main building of Al-Aqsa Hospital. This would be the first image I would come across every morning, a stark reminder of how Israel has robbed everyone of their basic and fundamental human rights. What kind of a world do we live in that accepts that what is happening to the people of Gaza is in any way okay? that these kids don't deserve to live in a home, surrounded by family members, to go to school and have an education, to not worry about whether they can have clean water, to drink and food to eat, to have clothes to wear or even shoes to run around in. I want you to imagine living in a tent. You can only stand up straight in the centre of it. You live there with 12 or 15 other family members. There is no electricity. In 35 or 40 degree weather, there are no fans, there is no air conditioning. If you have a mattress to sleep on, then you are lucky. There is no fridge. You use solar panels connected to inverters and controllers to try and get enough electricity to charge your phone, to even heat water to make a cup of coffee, or to send a message to the world about the brutality of what is happening to you. You might walk 6 kilometres one way to get to work in the morning, to a job in which you will get a small wage every couple of months that won't be enough to sustain you or your loved ones. Your daughter can't force herself to drink the salty water despite her dehydration, so you walk 3 hours to a water facility to be able to provide her with filtered water safe for consumption. Yet, despite all that they have endured, the people of Gaza have retained a sense of humour, an acceptance based on faith that allows them to have sumud, to remain steadfast and resilient against unspeakable tragedy. They are exceptionally generous, preparing us traditional Palestinian dishes such as maftour with chicken, or msa'a, or summagiya, when they themselves haven't tasted meat for many months. They offer you whatever they can, even beyond their own means, and feel embarrassed that the circumstances don't allow them to show their true level of hospitality. They would always say to us, "May you return to Gaza when the war has finished, and we can really show you how beautiful Gaza is and treat you with the highest degree of hospitality." And to this we would all say, Inshallah. Earlier this week, I attended an event whereby I was reminded of a quote by Palestinian writer Omar al-Akhbar. He writes about Gaza, "One day, when it's safe, when there's no personal downside to calling a thing what it is, when it's too late to hold anyone accountable, everyone will have always been against this." And so, it is imperative, now more than ever, even though it still might not be safe, to call a thing for what it is. Israel is committing a genocide. I've seen firsthand the destruction of its homes, its buildings, its shops, its mosques, and its infrastructure. Israel has perpetrated war crimes. It has attacked and destroyed 2/3 of the healthcare facilities, and abducted and tortured and targeted and killed healthcare workers. I've operated in the dark under phone light, wearing only sterile gloves in a healthcare system that is barely hanging on by a thread that is servicing over 2 million people. Israel has flouted international humanitarian law. It has bombed schools, refugee camps, prevented food and medical aid from entering Gaza, causing a shocking scale of widespread famine and communicable disease, and proven time and time again that there is no safe zone anywhere in Gaza.
Go Bushra!
So my message is this: if you are someone who values human life and believes that the people of Gaza, whom I now call my family, deserve to have the same freedom and safety and basic human rights that you and I get to enjoy, then you must speak up, to act, to engage, to petition, to donate, to write, to protest, to prove to Wissam and Rital and Ramin and Mohammed and Dima and Abdullah that they are not just numbers, that we will stand with them, fight for them, before it is too late. Thank you.
beautiful Palestinians have been dragged in the mud through torturous claims of anti-Semitism, torturous claims of being hateful, and we know that that is not true. We know that in our heart of hearts this movement is one of resistance and love and care. This is for Sada Shawish, for Muhammad Sharab, for Hash Tayyeh, for Dr. Randa Abdel Fattah, for every single Palestinian and ally that has been accused unjustly of anti-Semitism, because we know that our Jewish brothers and sisters that stand with us every single day know that they promised, and we promised them, that this will never happen again. And so we stand with them and they stand with us. Every single Zionist confession is every single Zionist lie is a confession. We know this. We know their strategy. We've heard it from day one. We've heard it 75 years ago, and we're still hearing it today. Every Zionist lie is a confession. And we will continue to stand up against these injustices. We will continue to rise up. Our fellow colleagues at the Menzies for Palestine group, this is for you. Keep going. I know that the White Horse Council has prevented you or denied you access to a room for fear of security, which is, we all know, is bullshit. So they are simply asking to show up this Friday afternoon at Box Hill Central, as well as for a rally at Jackson Court Shopping Centre on Saturday. Follow the Menzies for Palestine group on social media, and their leaflets are going around. These are strategic tactics, like the whole Melbourne City Council warnings now for our stalls, like the media running through false claims about our people. They are trying to intimidate us, but every single one of you here knows that we are on the right side of history, knows that we are standing for justice, knows that we are standing for peace, knows that we will continue to rise up, that we will not be intimidated, and that we will carry on this legacy until we liberate Palestine and Palestinians return. Now I'm going to introduce our next speaker, who is a staunch Jewish ally, and I am so honoured to be by her side. Sivan is a member of the Loud Jew Collective based in Nam, and since the 1980s, Sivan has continued to stand in solidarity alongside Palestinians for justice, joy, and freedom for all. Put your hands together, please.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for that amazing introduction, and please another round of hands for the doctor. Amazing, amazing. So I'll start, but before that I can already see so many of my dear friends, my Palestinian friends around here, and really it's thanks to them and their friendship and their trust that I've been able to get to where I am today. So I'm a member of the Loud Jew Collective and an anti-Zionist Jew. Because of my age, I sometimes call myself anti-Zionist. That's just between the Jews. I didn't start that way. I was born into a third-generation secular Zionist family, who I deeply love. It took me many years to unravel from my upbringing, through questioning and reading. But the most significant turning point was around 2008, not too far from here at the Trades Hall. I participated in a workshop between Jews and Palestinians, and this was the first time that I actually met Palestinians as a friend, as a person, not for any other reason but just to get to know each other. It was the first time in my life that I actually met Palestinians. Through conversations and a lot of debates, we're very argumentative peoples, I started forming lifelong bonds and trust. And I cherish these friendships and learn every day to be a better ally. It was during this time that I met a young man from Gaza who was completing his PhD, and our friendship grew strong, and his name is Moshe. Once he completed his studies and did a bit of work here, he decided to return to Gaza to be with his family, and he started building this incredible career. We kept in contact throughout the years, and were dreaming about me visiting him in Gaza, sitting on the beach and just looking at the sunset and eating good food. Since the attacks in Gaza, everything's been destroyed. His beautiful home, his workplace, his career, his finances, and his well-being. His beautiful family now live in a tent and struggle to remain safe. I asked Moshe yesterday to speak with his family, if they don't mind, and to put together like a message for me to read from them to everyone here who's come. So they had a big heated discussion in the tent, and he sent me this message. So this is from Moshe and his beautiful family, and it comes with a lot of love. He said, "This is an amazing and needed effort to keep rallying for Palestine, my friend. Thanks for inviting us to send a message to Aussies. I spoke to Allah and the kids, and I can sum up what they said. Thank you, Australia, for your support and solidarity with Gaza and Palestine. Your support is much needed and certainly makes a difference in stopping this genocidal war against our people. 10 traumatic months of fear, death, displacement, bombardment, mass slaughter and deprivation have had a terrible effect on us and made our life terribly unbearable. But we continue to remain steadfast, resilient and persistent in holding on to our rights in freedom and self-determination and peace. The support of Australians and many peoples around the world gives us continued hope that we are not left alone in the throes of this horrible and most brutal military occupation, and that we are all on the right side of history, and that our collective struggle is a just and moral struggle until justice for Palestine is achieved and peace prevails in this land. We continue to hold on to the assurance that there is still human goodness in the world, that wars end, and that there is another reality of peace and mutual respect that we all long for and cherish. Now this is our biggest challenge of patience and determination to not let racism, hatred, dehumanisation and violence win. This is our collective struggle and lifelong quest. Thank you, Australia.
Be much louder than that. It's another round of applause. Free, free Palestine! And this one the Zionists say, from the river to the sea, from the river to the sea. Now, you know why I know that we're winning? Seeing you here, week in, week out, I know we are winning. Seeing every single change, every single small step, we are winning. It's going to be a long journey, so buckle up, but we are winning. This week, the ICJ ruled in favour of recognising that Israel is a colonialist, apartheid state. We've been saying it for decades, and we finally have that ruling. It is now under the ICJ opinion that Israel is a genocidal, colonialist, apartheid state. Remember that. That is a huge win. But what's more interesting, and I've been saying this and a lot of us have been saying this, is that this Albanese government is complicit in this genocide. And guess what? Now that this ruling has come out, that complicity has been set in stone. That complicity and the opinion by the ICJ has given an opinion on the ties by the ICJ. So I'm going to read this out. The ICJ ruled that the court is of the view that member states are under an obligation to abstain from entering into economic or trade dealings with Israel concerning the occupied Palestinian territory or parts thereof, which may entrench its unlawful presence in the territory, and to take steps to prevent trade or investment relations that assist in the maintenance of the illegal situation created by Israel in the occupied Palestinian territories. Guess what, Albanese? You are almost certainly complicit. So try to make your way out of this one, buddy. The Australian government since 2016 has been secretly and directly implicated in genocide and in providing arms to Israel. That is a shame. During the beginning of the genocide this year, in 2003, at the end of 2023, sorry, my apologies, I'm getting my numbers wrong. That must be confusing. End of 2023, the Australian government signed a almost $1 billion contract with Elbit Systems. If that's not complicit in genocide, then I don't know what is. But mark my words, I will dedicate my entire life to see this government taken to the ICC and being charged with genocide complicity. And it is why these pickets that we are carrying out across NUM and across other states in so-called Australia are necessary. It is because these companies, like Albert, like Thales, like Northrop, like Electromold, they are all directly complicit in providing arms or arms parts to the genocidal state that is so-called Israel, and it must end. We must stop the work at these factories, and we must stop them now. To speak to you a little bit more about this is our next speaker. Please put your hands together for Lloyd Rahman, an Electromold picket community activist.
Thank you, Noor, and thank you, Dr. Bushra and Sivan, for your wonderful speeches. I pay my respects to the Wurundjeri people of this land and all the First Nations people of this entire continent, and extend my respects to the elders, past and present. I honour the resilience and resistance of our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, who are here today and who will always be here. This always was and always will be Aboriginal land. I'm here to talk about why we're protesting at some obscure factory in the back streets of Thomastown. Yeah, Electromold are one of many processing facilities in the global supply chain of the military-industrial complex that are supplying the means for the genocide in Gaza. Sure. Electromold boasts that they hold the world's highest surface finishing accreditations, the Southern Hemisphere's most specialised surface coating manufacturers. Now, ordinarily, being world leaders in technologies and processing capacities would be a wonderful thing if it was going towards advancing humanity, vital public goods and services. Instead, Electromold have made the choice to be the accredited suppliers for Lockheed Martin, Bay, Farah, Boeing, to provide surface finishing for the F-35 Joint Strike Fighting Warplane and the JDAM Smart Bomb, Joint Direct Action Munition. I don't agree that there's anything smart about weapons of mass destruction. But anyway, The production and delivery of these munitions has been fast-tracked to the United States and thereby Israel since October. Fast-tracked to commit more genocide. Last week, 8 J-Dam bombs were unleashed on the Al-Mawasi refugee camp. 80,000 displaced Palestinians were sheltering there. They were ripped apart, blown to pieces, and buried in their tents by 8 bombs, each of which have come through Thomastown, Melbourne. It's a damn shame. It's a damn shame. I hope you're listening, Labour, because the people have stood up where you have failed to do so. And we're standing up for peace and justice. So, what is a picket? Not everyone may know, and what are we demanding? It is our democratic right to assemble and protest an institution that is complicit in genocide. We are demanding justice and contribution to peace in line with international law. So what does that look like? Well, it's cold, it's tiring, there are a lot of police around who are sometimes cooperative, I'll give them that much. We've been down there 3 times now to the Electromold factory demanding that they divest from weapons parts manufacturing. We aim to stop work from stopping the shift workers from coming in for that shift, thereby causing massive disruptions and expenses to the workday and a slowing down in the global supply chain. We want to make it so expensive, so inconvenient for any weapons manufacturers who have made that choice, for them to force to reconsider and redirect their efforts to something more ethical, more useful. I know it's a lucrative billion-dollar industry, I get it, and it's a shift a week might seem like a drop in the ocean. But we are all part of a global movement too, to disrupt. And if we haven't come for you yet, we're coming. Don't worry. We are coming. We are in our thousands and in our millions, standing by our Palestinians and all oppressed peoples to fight for peace, liberation and justice. Thank you. I'd like to now address someone specific in the crowd. I'm talking to you, the yet-to-be direct activist. I know you've been grieving. I know you're outraged. You've been rallying for 41 weeks. If you've been compelled to join the fight, I'm calling you in. Bring your grief, bring your rage. Let it be your guide and your source of power. I know it's hard. I know it's hard. I want to stay in bed too. But even though it's hard, it's so inspiring. It's so powerfully inspiring to be with a community of dedicated, compassionate, eloquent, determined and steadfast people in the fight for liberation and justice together. 250 of us were there last week. It's so inspiring. It's so powerful. And you're not powerless. You're not. And you know, even in the circumstances, there's joy and there's celebration too. Last week, at the break of dawn, there was a kind of chant, dance routine And Amr Ihab was there, and he was dancing and jumping up and down and waving his kafiyeh. I'll never forget that. But the time really is now. If you needed one more calling, let this be it. We'll be there again this Wednesday, 6 a.m, Holt Parade, Thomastown. Yeah, I want you to come too. There are some comrades will have some QR codes today in the community. There's some flyers, I can see them over there. Lena's got them waving. It'll be on the socials. That'll take you to a WhatsApp group where you'll be connected with others and get some more information. It'll be on the socials: Free Palestine, Melbourne, Tarabin, Whittlesea, Free Coalition Naam. There's also a picket coming up in Dandenong in a couple of weeks, so I hope there'll be a speaker before that one. So get involved, join us. Yeah, we would love to have you on board. I want to say one final thing. It's a big shout out to our Teachers for Palestine who are over there. Give our Teachers for Palestine. Went to the Australian Education Union conference and made that conference all about Palestine, because Palestine is union business. Is union business. One final chant all together: free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! It will be free!
We all know our demands are clear and they are simple. 1, expel the Israeli ambassador. 2, cut all ties with Israel. Any trade ties with Israel must be embargoed. And 3, sanction Israel. Why? Because Israel is a terrorist state. And just like Pakistan has named Netanyahu as a terrorist, and so he is. Israel is a terrorist state, Netanyahu is a terrorist, and they will be taken to court for all their crimes and all their injustices against the Palestinian people. Like Lloyd said, there is so much that we can do. We can hone in that grief, we can hone in that anger and target it to something strategic. Going to these pickets and preventing the workers from working costs these companies millions. And when you cost them millions, you hit them hard and they will not be able to function and they will not be able to sustain their complicity with the genocidal state that is Israel. But also, we need our government and our elected officials to stand up and own up to their constituents. I do not want to see any more rallies on Saturday in front of a closed-up MP office. I want at least 3 people every single day to show up to their elected official's office and demand that they speak to their elected official. It has to happen. They need to be held accountable. If they don't want to talk to you, then they best be sure that they're going to be voted out. It is as simple as that. Now, one elected official that has been a staunch ally and has shown up from day one. Please put your hands together for Gabrielle De Vitry, the Victorian Greens Party member.
Thank you, Noor, and thank you for having me back here. I'll start by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people whose land this is and whose sovereignty was never ceded, and add my voice to pay respect and honour Wurundjeri elders, past and present, and extend that respect to First Nations people here with us today, and elders from all nations. And I want to start with gratitude. Gratitude for you. For over 40 weeks, you have turned up, and I want to express how deeply that gratitude runs. You've shown up, you've waded through misinformation, you have rejected the threats and attempts to discredit and intimidate this movement. You have acted with a moral clarity and a strength that I do not take for granted. You've got families to look after, you've got jobs, you've got the pressures of life, and whatever is going on for you, you have found time and space and compassion and the humanity to fight for Palestine. Because you know, as well as I know, that this struggle will define us. When I say us, I mean humanity. This struggle will define humanity. I especially want to acknowledge the many people who have had a hand in organising these rallies. Keeping this kind of momentum going is no small feat. But you have created an unprecedented movement. You must be exhausted. But know that the impact you have had and are continuing to have is enormous. It's not just the people organising these rallies, but it's everyone involved in the student rallies, in the student encampments, in the pickets, in the pickets at the docks and at all these manufacturing places. You've researched and turned up, and you have not stopped. If you've organised in your workplace, among your peers, everything counts. Every sit-in, every act of resistance counts. And my role as a Victorian Greens MP is at the bare minimum, to hold this Victorian Labor state government to account for their complicity in the war crimes committed by the terrorist state of Israel. And with no one else but me and my Greens colleagues in there speaking out for Palestine, it is a lonely place. It is a moral wasteland. And I have never been so sure of our purpose in this broken parliament. To truly represent our community, to be a voice for humanity, and to expose the inner workings of our parliament back out to the public who have been shut off from communication with what is supposed to be our democratic institutions. To show the inner workings of the morally corrupt Labor Liberal duopoly. And so I want to talk about that a bit. And by talking about what's happening here and what's happening in my politics, I'm not denying that the first thing on all of our minds is the almost hundreds of thousands of people who are being killed and those on the brink of death. That is the underpinning and what I keep in my heart as I'm telling you about the workings of our politicians back here and the people who are enabling this genocide to happen. And what I've seen from this Labor government is an unapologetic support of the genocidal agenda of Israel to obliterate Palestine and Palestinians. They've tried to hide it. They have closed Parliament to the public because they were scared of you. They were scared of your grief. They were scared of seeing that because they know that they are on the wrong side of history. They've banned the kefir. They've even banned the watermelon. They have sanctioned and suspended MPs. They would rather suspend a young Muslim woman senator than they would sanction Israel. And at the same time, they have continued to greenlight military exports while blaming everyone but themselves for social unrest. Every day in Parliament we pressure Labor to end their ties with the terrorist state of Israel. But their ties must be deep and strong to endure the deaths of tens of thousands of innocent children, the slow starvation of hundreds of thousands more, to deny the findings of the ICJ and turn their backs on the UN, and to ignore the outcry of even their most ardent supporters. Because through all this, Labor has continually stood with Israel and upheld a memorandum of understanding, a secret agreement with the Israeli Defense Ministry. And they've done it in the name of Victorian jobs. Who wants a job killing children? This community has been pressuring them to tear up the MOU, and we have been echoing those calls inside Parliament, at the very least, to publish it so we know what secret deals they're entering into on our behalf. And despite being compelled to release these documents under our parliamentary rules, Labor has refused to produce them. Just like extraordinarily, they refused to put up a single speaker to debate the petition that this community established, that this community lodged with the Parliament to end their ties with Elbit and tear up the MOU. They refused to even put up a speaker. And unprecedentedly, they called for a vote on whether or not to even recognise the petition, and then they voted against it. Such contempt for this community. Such contempt for democracy. And while we still don't have the MOU itself, my office got hold of some other documents under a Freedom of Information request. And they outline the objectives of the MOU and the event planning that went into signing them, who was there and what they were to say. And they exposed what we have suspected all along. And that is that the Victorian government's connection with the Israeli Defense Ministry is much more than about Victorian jobs. It is an ideological alignment to the Zionist political agenda. In fact, the documents actually contain no reference to job creation. The stated intention was to foster trade relations between Victorian and Israeli defence, aerospace, security and cybersecurity sectors. To assist in identifying contract opportunities for in Israel for Victoria's defence supply chain businesses, and that's why the people standing up against Electromold and against HTA are so important in this struggle. And the other intention was to support greater collaboration on defence industry objectives of Israel. And we know, even before October last year, that their defence objectives included the illegal occupation of Palestinian land, the imprisonment and torture of Palestinians, including children without trial, and the bombing and murder of Palestinian civilians in Gaza and the West Bank. The MOU, which was given the tick of approval from both Labor and Liberal MPs at the state and federal governments, was called a major step in supporting our respective governments and defence sectors to improve their collaboration and information sharings. And this is the most disgusting part. It talks about global tensions as opportunities to capture and share. Shame! And throughout the negotiations from 2018 to 2022, it also showed how aware the Victorian government was of the criticism that they would face if they entered into an agreement with the Israeli Defense Ministry. They say that civil society organisations may criticise the Victorian government for engaging and cooperating with Israel. That Israel's ongoing conflict continues to attract public and media attention, especially in relation to its relationship with Elbit. And that Samantha Ratnam, the leader of the Victorian Greens, has been critical of the Victorian government's relationship with Elbit, even before this latest wave of genocidal attacks. We will keep pursuing these documents in Parliament, but as long as Victoria continues to refuse to produce them, they're not only ignoring the will of the people, but they're also undermining the will of Parliament, refusing to comply with the parliamentary processes that they normally hide behind. And at the same time, they're giving our public institutions the green light to intimidate people in our movement. In attempts to silence the resistance, whether it's the police, whether it's the State Library of Victoria cancelling the contracts of writers and artists who have spoken out against Israel, whether it's the Department of Premier and Cabinet refusing to renew the contracts of people who have signed an open letter in support of Palestine. You have faced cancellations, you have lost your jobs, you've faced rubber bullets and capsicum spray. Some of you have had your homes raided. Some of you have been arrested. Some of you have been held in custody over tenuous charges. It shouldn't be, but these are the hallmarks of all major struggles for justice. And they are textbook behaviour for governments that are on the wrong side of history. And as violent, colonising oppression echoes through time, so do the movements of powerful, peaceful resistance echo to us, from the civil rights movement to the movement against the Vietnam War, South African apartheid. To all of you who have been targeted by police, by your workplace, by the government, we stand with you, as you stand with Palestine, as you are Palestine manifest in our community. This community, this movement for peace, will not be intimidated. We will continue to show up, to speak out, and to fight for a free Palestine until Palestine is free. And that's my promise to you. The Greens and I will not stop holding Labor and Liberal to account. We've got more FOIs and more questions to ask, and we'll keep pressuring Labor to end their complicity in this genocide and keep bringing your voice into Parliament. But this is just a holding pattern. I don't want to undermine the work that we're doing, but this is just a holding pattern. Because as long as we uphold this corrupt two-party system, Labor and Liberal will tic-tac between them, doing the dirty work of their lobbyists and donors. Donors that don't see the difference between Labor and Liberal because there is none. And the longer they support this genocide, the less support they get. They think they can keep going with the backing of their donors, but they are losing their grip. So to if there are any Labor members or supporters or voters still hanging on in this crowd, my message to you is forget them. Change from the inside is over. But it's not just about changing who you vote for. It's about actively supporting the alternative. It's about showing up for someone with a positive vision for the future that you share. It's about tapping someone on the shoulder or putting your hand up to represent your community, because those seats in Parliament, they're not reserved for old white men of the establishment. They're for all of us. And I'm not going to beat around the bush here. We've got local and federal government elections coming up soon. And we've got some incredible candidates running for the Greens, running to be a strong voice to Palestine and running in federal parliament to hold the balance of power as votes for the major parties disintegrate before our eyes. But there's one seat that I'd like to do a call out for today, and that is the seat of Cooper. It covers Northcote, Preston, Reservoir, Alphington, Thornbury, and Labor holds it on a slim majority. The Greens are close to taking it. And I want to see a Greens candidate for Cooper who will fight for Palestine, who will give Jed Carney a run for her money. Jed Carney, who has voted to stand with Israel but not to recognise Palestinian statehood, who has otherwise been silent on the matter of Palestine and this genocide, silent as Labor approves military exports to kill Palestinian children. And with the ICJ report yesterday, I'm not holding my breath that anything will change. It's time to go, Jet. And if you or someone you know is willing to stand up and represent this community, not donors or lobbyists, then come and talk with me. Send me a DM, get in touch. Because those seats are for all of us. If more than 40 weeks of protests, thousands of letters, blockades, pickets, the UN, the ICJ don't shift Labor and Liberal parties, then votes will, and it's time to kick them both out. We rise above this horror by coming together, by taking action, by never giving up. Look after each other and don't stop fighting. From the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
From the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, before we start, remember, you are here for a purpose, you are here for a reason, and that is justice for Palestine and justice for all. Our Bangladeshi brothers and sisters will be joining us from their march at Fed Square. What is happening in Bangladesh is an atrocity. Students being killed and injured for reforms is an atrocity, and we stand side by side with them to let them know that any state violence is not accepted, and that we will rise up as a people together to free Palestine, Bangladesh, Congo, Sudan, everywhere, every people that have seen an occupation or an occupying power or resistance from state violence, we will get them. We will rise up because we are a people that are loving, we are a people that have so much care, and we are a people that are just. From the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
From the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
I need you to be louder than that. From the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
Let's make the entirety of Nam hear us today. Let's go. Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
In our thousands, in our millions.
We are all Palestinians.
Let's show them. Let's march.
How's Bali?
So good.
Did you get a bit of a tan, or did you?
You can't see because it's just my face showing,
I can
but I did.
see.
I did. Mama, darling, on the posters. Posters.
There's some serviettes there as well. Either cash or just donate via the link. Just send donations, whatever you want. Perfect. Great. Do you want some change? Feel free to take that.
Over here.
How are you?
Ah, good, thanks. I just want to take a piece of that. Where do I put the...
Do you want a bag or
That's fine as it is.
serviette? Thank you. Yes, it helps.
I think that'll probably be fine. Thank you.
Do you want to
Yeah.
all the tips?
Okay.
Go for it.
I will. Thanks, matey.
There you go.
Bye.
How are you? Oh, you should be able to just scan it, okay? And you can put your card
Whichever way you choose, you are still supporting Palestine. Free the people, free the land. Justice is our demand. Free the people, free the land. Don't you cry! Palestine will never die! Don't you cry! Palestine will never die! You wanna know why? You wanna know why? The people united will never be defeated! The people united will never be defeated! The people united will never be defeated! السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. We will make dua, pray for the people of Palestine and people of Yemen. No one mentioned Yemen. Yemen attacked last night in their only electricity in the city of Al-Hudaydah, and the finery for the petrol and diesel, because they stood up for the people of Palestine and they managed to send the drone to Jaffa.
Where does the Guardian get
A great drone managed to go all the way 1,500 kilometers to attack the Zionist regime in the middle of Gaza. We burn the Yemeni people. Yemen, make us proud. Send another drone around. Send another drone around. Send another drone around. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وبارك لنا فيما اعطيت وقنا شر ما قضيت انك تقضي بالحق ولا يقضى عليك. اللهم we ask you for every single man for you, for every single man we live, for every single man we get for yourself, to give victory to the people of Palestine. Oh Allah, send on them vengeance from your hand, send on them food from you, send them victory from you, send them people to fight from you. Allah, send on them angels to be with them, to calm them down, to give sakina, to give tumanina on them. They need you your help. So Allah can answer them, and they will know when to keep you. We pray for you, we lift our hand for you, Allah, to serve you, to be with them. We are absolutely confident. We have nowhere, no need to go to them. Please, be with them, take care of them. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya I won't be with the Zionists until you destroy them. It starts with Arab leaders. It starts with Arab leaders. It starts with Arab leaders. And finish every Zionist in the world. Allahumma destroy America. Allahumma destroy America. Allahumma destroy America. America is the biggest problem. America is the biggest threat in the world. Allahumma ya Allah, be with our people. Allahumma ya Allah, help us all along. Carry our souls, our patience, our help to them. You can take us with them, ya Allah. Allahumma, we can't do anything except make dua for you, except lift our hands for you. Please, ya Allah, please obey our dua and be victorious for our brothers back in Palestine.
When we pray, free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! Enough of Zina, enough of Zina,
We'll be free!
from the free Palestine! Free, free, 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 free
Gaza, Gaza, you will rise. Palestine will never die. Palestine will never die. Gaza, Gaza, you will rise. Gaza, you will rise. Palestine will never die. Palestine will never die. Free Palestine. Free Palestine. Free Palestine. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, Baba, go there. Tarek.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! I'm totally
Excuse me. Can you come down?
Alright, can I please ask this is sort of order and administration. If you see the marshals, please do not step above that line. Let's maintain that distance. And also, to the right of me, our Auslan interpreters who do an incredible job week in, week out. Please put your hands together for them. So this space here is for our hearing impaired community. We need that space available to them. So let's please make sure. Yes. Let's please make sure that this space is available to our community here. Everywhere else, please feel free to sit on the steps, come closer. This is community. We are safe and we are loving, and so are you. Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! In our thousands, in our millions! We are all Palestinians! In our thousands, in our millions! We are all Palestinians! Now, I've said this chant when we were walking up, but I feel like it needs to be said here. Remember, every Palestinian has the fundamental right to return to their homeland. And so when we say Raja, it means we will return. And the Raja, you need to be louder than that. And the Raja, and the Blasi Raja, and the Qudsa Raja, and the Wallah Raja, and the Quds Raja, and the Rafah Raja, and the Wallah Raja, and the Jini Raja, and the I really want you to know that we have been grieving. We've been grieving for 9 months, and it can be overwhelming. Our grief can overwhelm us, but our steadfastness will prevail. Remember that, to be steadfast. We will prevail. We must not lose sight of the fact that despite these past horrific 9 months, our efforts and the efforts of the resistance to isolate, constrict, and ultimately dismantle the Zionist entity are happening. They are working. You want facts? Here's some facts. The Zionist entity is in collapse. 46,000 businesses have closed in the so-called state of Israel. Eilat Port, which was a major port hub, has declared bankruptcy. Angel investors in the tech industry have withdrawn, and investments have dropped by 75% since the end of 2023. Boycotts work, divestments work, sanctions work. We are winning. So stand tall, stand proud. We must remain committed. We must remain committed and redouble our efforts to confront and bring down Zionism from wherever we are until liberation and return. Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Now our next speaker, I'm so excited to introduce to you because they will be recounting personal testimony from a doctor in Gaza. Please welcome Dana Ibrahim, a Palestinian-Australian environmental researcher. Dana will be relaying the experience of Dr. Shema Abu Sha'ban, a doctor in psychology specializing in trauma therapy for children. Put your hands together for Dana.
like many displaced Palestinians all around the world, I never got the chance to see my homeland before it was bombed. Like No said, I'll be here to relay the testimony of Dr. Shayma Abu Shaban. I've had the pleasure of talking and having a personal relationship with Dr. Shayma. And when I approached her last week to do this, she really encouraged me and she expressed the need to relay her testimony to expose the crimes of the Israeli occupation. Her story is one of profound loss, trauma, displacement, and the heartbreaking experience of losing not only her family and children and everything she held dear, but her job, her home, and her country. Dr. Shayma begins her testimony with verses from the Quran. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَلِنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُم مُّصِيبَةٌ قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. Be sure we shall test you with something of fear and hunger, some loss in goods or lives or the fruits of your toil. But give glad tidings to those who patiently persevere, who when afflicted with calamity, say truly to Allah we belong and to Him we shall all return. She went on to say, indeed this is what happened to us. During the war we felt hunger, we felt fear, we lost our property, we lost everything. I used to live a very comfortable life, a life of academic achievements and accomplishments. I used to have the most wonderful children, and everyone admired their manners and politeness. I had the most amazing family, and siblings and parents. I had the most beautiful home. But now I speak to you, having lost everything, alhamdulillah. Every single minute of the war felt unbearably heavy and excruciatingly slow. I would count down the seconds, praying for each minute to finally pass, because just in 1 minute, tens of houses can be bombed and many lives would be claimed. A few days before the strike that took my children's lives, I left my home due to bombing threats. I sought refuge at my parents' house, where I found my siblings had also taken refuge. I remember the night before the strike. My daughter Yara, who was just 2.5 years old, wouldn't leave my embrace. She refused to sleep anywhere beside, except in my lap. I was confused by her insistence to stay in my lap. When I asked her, "What's wrong, Mama?" she said, "Mama, I'm scared of the war." That night, she clung to me, resting on my heart, as if she was silently saying, "Mama, don't let go of me. This is our last night together. Hold me close, this is going to be our goodbye." But I didn't understand her message that day. The fateful, ominous day arrived, the day of the strike. I don't know what came over me that day, but in the morning I took my children to see their grandparents so they can see their dad. I can't explain why I did it. Maybe it was an unconscious need to say goodbye. I don't know. I still don't know. That day we all gathered in the living room. Suddenly, without any warning, the house was bombed over our heads. 3 floors, 3 ceilings, all came crashing down on the bodies of my children and my family members. I remember under the rubble, surrounded by pin-drop silence, and in that stillness, I knew that I had lost everyone. In that devastating strike, I lost my parents, along with my brother Ahmed, my sweet niece Marah, my son Inad, who was just 19 years old. He had just graduated high school and was looking forward to his university degree. My daughter Sarah, only 14, who loved school and she embraced life. And my precious Yara, the soul of my soul. While I was trapped under the rubble, injured and in pain, my mouth was filled with rocks and dirt and smoke. I vividly remember the terrifying moment of having to swallow a large stone so I could not suffocate. I kept slipping in and out of consciousness, battling death. During that time, they lacked the proper equipment to retrieve all my family from under the rubble. And after 3 agonizing days, they called to tell me that they had found the bodies of my brother, my niece, and my precious Yara. I begged to see them one last time, but they wouldn't allow it, saying that they are in the early stages of decomposition. So they opened Imad and Sara's grave, and they placed Yara in the arms of her older sister. Dr. Shayma then goes on to explain her displacement journey as Israeli occupation forces surrounded Al-Shifa hospital, where she was recovering from her injuries. She says the IOF started bombing the building and arresting anyone they could find inside. She fled to another hospital, surrounded by a sea of women and children and families, raising white flags, while planes were striking all around them. She then sought refuge at a relative's house, hoping for safety, but once again she found herself in the rubble and being pulled out for the second time. Once again, Dr. Shayma set out towards the south of Gaza with nothing but a small bag. She continues saying, I headed towards the safe humanitarian corridor, or at least that's what they called it. Before entering, I had to prematurely remove the cast on my broken foot, and I had to walk on my broken foot because it was not allowed to have anything on yourself. It was truly a nightmare. Bodies lay strewn everywhere. You'd find a head there, a foot here, a hand there. The smell of death hung heavy in the air. We weren't allowed anywhere. We weren't allowed to look anywhere but straight ahead, or else we would be immediately sniped. She spoke of the Israeli occupation forces' treatment of Palestinians, saying we were subjected to vile and degrading comments, and they kept cursing at us, treating us in such a dehumanizing way, and they would randomly choose people to arrest. I witnessed a heartbreaking moment when a woman carrying her baby was called to be arrested. They ordered her to put her child on the ground and go to the hill, forbidding her to look back. She went on to describe her continued journey of displacement from one place to the next, escaping bombs, forced starvation, and harsh weather conditions. The sense of loneliness always accompanied her. She described this feeling to me using an analogy. She said, before the war, I was part of a big, beautiful family tree with deep roots and vibrant leaves and blossoming flowers. But after they were gone, I felt like a blown branch on the ground. One night, while sheltering at Rafah Hospital, I was in a room trying to sleep when a nurse opened the door, carrying the lifeless body of a child wrapped in white, placing him in the fridge and walking away. Dr. Shaymat recalled, I sat there in shock, grappling with the reality that a dead child has just been placed in the same room as me. I suddenly realized I was sleeping in a room meant for deceased bodies, and memories flit back of all of my lost children. I told myself, Shayma, you've been through way worse. You can handle sleeping in a room full of dead children. I turned my back to the fridge and I slept. But the very next day, at the same time, another nurse entered the room and placed yet another child, a lifeless child corpse, into the same room as me. I couldn't handle it. I burst into tears. I cried and I cried and I prayed and I prayed. It was the lowest point of my life. And in that moment, I kept pleading with God to get me out of this place in any possible way. At that exact moment, she received what she describes as a miracle call to evacuate with Noor. Noor is an injured 6-year-old child who had lost her entire family in the strike. And Dr. Shayma describes Noor as her daughter, her new daughter. She became like a daughter to her. Together, they left Gaza, they began their journey to Egypt and then to Qatar for her continued treatment. A few weeks after leaving Gaza, she received the devastating news that the rest of her family were killed in a strike, leaving her truly alone in the world. Dr. Shayma's story is just one of millions. She was displaced over 15 times. She experienced hunger. And thirst with nothing to eat for days and days and nothing to drink but salty water, which only made them thirstier. And many may not understand this, but Dr. Shayma, she still considered herself lucky that she got to bury her children and to have known their fate, a privilege which a lot of people don't have. And that's the end of her testimony. But on a personal note, I just want to say how incredibly heartwarming it is to see this many people show for Palestine week in and week out. Growing up where protests aren't really encouraged, it truly is a privilege to have a voice. And I urge you to use this voice for meaningful change. I've shared videos of these rallies with Dr. Shayma, and she was truly touched. She could never have imagined people all the way in Australia would show up for Gaza in such a powerful way. So when you feel tired, or you feel like skipping out, or you feel intimidated, just know that your chants, your passion, your voice, they have all reached the hearts of the people of Gaza. And remember, in stories like these, and people like Dr. Shayma, and the millions of people like her, is why you're marching, why you're protesting, why you're boycotting, why you're blocking. But most importantly, we do it because it is our duty. It is the absolute least we can do. They have lost far too much, and they continue to lose everything every single day. So we do this because it is our duty, and it's the least we can do, the absolute least. Thank you.
Please round of applause for Jana. There are millions like Dr. Shayma. There are millions like her that aren't able to escape. There is no safe route. There is no safe journey. There is no safe space. There is no safe zone. There's nothing. Every Zionist lie is a confession of their genocidal crimes against the Palestinian people. Remember that, let that move you. If Dr. Shayma's testimony didn't move you, remember that there are 15,000 children that have been slaughtered. There are estimates of up to 186,000 Palestinians that have been killed in these past 10 months. If that doesn't move you, remember that our Palestinian brothers and sisters in Gaza are being starved to death. I have seen children, skeletal children, that should be running around free, that should be dreaming and hoping and getting an education. Remember that. The time is now to act and continue to rise up. The Zionist entity will fall. You know why? Because we have people like you, and we have people like the Houthis in Yemen who are standing up against an imperial power. Blockading ships, they are striking ships, and then they sent a drone called Yapa all the way to Tel Aviv to tell them that we are here, and we will rise up, and we will fight until Palestine is liberated, and until we return. Now our next speaker really needs no introduction, but I will introduce her because she is a staunch woman and I am proud to stand by her side. Please put your hands together for Tasneem Samak, a Palestinian organizer and assistant lecturer at Monash University. She's a member of the Free Palestine Coalition now and with Unions for Palestine. Put your hands together for Tasneem.
Salam everyone. Thank you for being here for, I can't keep count, maybe week 43 or is it 42? 42, yeah. Want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations, and pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging, always was, always will be Aboriginal land. I want to acknowledge that sovereignty has never been ceded, that this parliament is a colonial parliament, that the lands that we walk on, these are lands marked by massacres and continue to be marked by an ongoing genocide. And as we protest against the genocide in Gaza, it's important that we relate to the reality of what this place is, a settler colonial place, similar to the way that us as Palestinians, we suffer under settler colonial government of Israel. The Zionist regime, a settler colonial regime that is exterminating the people of Gaza. And when we talk about Gaza, it's important to put it into the political context of what is going on in the world right now. That is the Zionist regime bringing back that form of old colonialism which relates to the extermination of the native people with military violence. Now, states have been using violence against their own people. We see that today in Bangladesh with the massacring of the students, and we stand with the people of Bangladesh. We see that in Kenya, we see that in Sudan, and what is happening in Palestine is a form, yes, of state violence, but this is a form of settler colonial violence that is there to exterminate the people of Gaza. And so all of us, we need to connect the dots between these struggles, and we need to understand that what is being accomplished in Gaza, this final solution, we cannot speak about it in any diminished way. It is a project not to simply ethnically cleanse, but to exterminate Gaza. Nine months we've seen, and we've just heard the testimony here of the bombing of hospitals, the bombing of schools, and not allowing people to even flee Gaza. That is all designed as one policy, as well as the starvation, to ensure that Gaza is no more. That is designed to eradicate Gaza, to flatten Gaza, and that is what is said by Israeli officials. They have hid that in no way. However, Western leaders and Western media, when you open up the news, what do you see? You hear the words conflict, you hear maybe some demands of a ceasefire, but absolutely no truth-telling in the way that we hear from the testimony of Dr. Shayma. Absolutely no acknowledgement that what is happening in Gaza and what is planned for the people of Gaza is extermination. This is why we come out every week, because when we say stop the genocide, we're not saying stop the genocide in a few years. We're not saying stop the genocide when one day we reform this system and one day we have a government that is favorable towards us. No, we're saying stop the genocide right now, the genocide that is occurring. And I know that a lot of us feel extremely powerless because that is the situation. That these governments that run the world at the moment, they have the power. They have the power to back Israel. They are arming Israel. We see that when Israel bombs Yemen, the international community stands with Israel with zero context, similar to when Israel bombs Gaza. It is the people of Gaza who are condemned, and today it is the people of Yemen who are condemned. These world leaders together are part of a global system that is there by design to attack, to target, to oppress ordinary people, represented by Gaza, represented by the people of Bangladesh, represented in Kenya. These people and all of us, we feel powerless because that is the asymmetry. That is the reality of the world system. So what I would ask you to do is to lean into that reality, and enough with the denial. Enough with the denial that we see on the news. Enough with the equivocation. What is happening is slaughter. What is happening is a fight between the colonial powers and the colonized people of the world, the oppressed people of the world. Shame. And that means that the options are very limited. Either we fight against the genocide, either we find that power collectively, we find that power as a movement internationally, or we continue to witness a genocide that has no end. We hear 186,000 people, and we know that Donald Trump is running for election, now more invigorated than ever. So what is the solution for Gaza? And what is the way forward that is awaiting the people of Gaza? These are the two options. Either we all together end the genocide, or all together will be exterminated, our hopes will be crushed with the people of Gaza. Shame. And it's grim, and it's as grim as the mass graves in Gaza, and it's as grim as the massacres in Gaza. We should not allow a situation where we who live in the West are expected to consume, to work, to go about our daily living, ignoring that this is happening around the world. And that is what the ALP government is counting on. The ALP is basically their policy to attack the movement and hope the rest of Australian society will just go along with the lies that we are anti-Semitic, that really the issue here is social cohesion. That is what they're selling. They're saying nothing about the genocide, really. What they're saying is, oh, the crisis is that there's a few here who, we are the scapegoat in their narrative, a few here causing trouble for multiculturalism. And that is a lie. We refuse that, we see through that, and we say no to the genocide. We will be the people who are the thorn in your throat. We will be the people that, if this genocide continues, and if you massacre another 100,000 people, there will be mass trouble all around the world. Here, and that is what we said from day one. Here within this colony, in Jordan, in Egypt, in Lebanon, in Yemen, and the people of Gaza, when they rose up and decided to break the siege, that is what they counted on. And we cannot let them down. They have counted on not simply the arms that they bear and the arms that they refuse to let put down. They know that that will not count against the strongest military of the world. What the people of Gaza are counting on is the people of Jordan, the people of Lebanon, the people of Egypt, and all of us around the West to aid them, to support them, to stand with them, and that is the duty that we have. We should not be intimidated away from saying that that's where we stand. We stand with the occupied people, and we stand on the side of defending the people who are facing a genocide. We stand with Gaza, we stand with Yemen, we stand with Lebanon, and we stand with all oppressed people. So I'll just finish off with this chant. 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't want your bloody war. 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't want your bloody war. 5, 6, 7, 8. Israel is a terrorist state. 5, 6, 7, 8. Israel is a terrorist state. 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 Thank you.
Is a terrorist, and each member of the Knesset are terrorists, and they will go down as terrorists and as genociders and aid and abet genocide and call for the destruction of the Palestinian people. But guess what? Zionism is falling, and we will see it fall, and we will see it crumble, and Palestine will be liberated from the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. Keep showing up every Sunday. We will be here every Sunday. Go to your MP's offices during the day. It only takes 2 to 3 people every single day. Be a thorn in their side. Let them be held accountable for their inaction towards what is happening in Palestine, towards their constituents. You voted them in. They have the obligation to listen to each and every single one of you. Be strong, be proud, be loud. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Each of you next week. Peace!
Thanks everyone for watching. See you again next week.